Radio's Crystal Adams, back from using the Cumulus jet on a little vacation.
Stop it, no.
Yeah,
if anything, I was huddled up in like some kind of hole somewhere, hiding from everything.
It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back.
Glad
we had
to
a little
be
bit
here.
of a hiatus. We had a couple of weeks off, and then we had to fill in.
They quarantined us just for safety in general, not because we were sick or anything. They just were
and I'm actually broadcasting from my living room in Tiverton, just to be on the safe side. But Monday at midnight, I should be good to go. So looking forward to that. With me on the line is a geopolitical analyst, writer, and lecturer. He's Brandon Weichert. And Brandon has been, you've read his work if you read Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Markets, Real Clear Policy, or the Powerline blog, and also Hot Air. He's a contributing editor at American Greatness, as well as a contributor to the American Spectator, and is well known on the lecture circuit. And he's been banned, actually kind of banned from the Weichert Report from Facebook. Brandon, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me, John, and good to be here. Yeah, no, I've been kind of shadow banned. It's weird. I can still post on my personal Facebook account, but I've been basically for the last 48 hours receiving nastygrams from Facebook headquarters about how I've been, posting fake news. And of course, when I read what they were complaining about, they were articles from the Epoch Times, which of course is a Falun Gong associated anti-Chinese Communist Party, very excellent newspaper. I've been posting articles from the New York Post, from Investors Business Daily, and so I was confounded when I received that, got into an exchange with the representative from Facebook, and basically they told me that not even if I deleted the articles in question, my Weichert Report Facebook page would still be sanctioned. So it's still there, but nobody can see it unless they're already a subscriber, and I can't promote it, and it's sort of now just a dead page, and I couldn't figure out why. I told them, I said, look, the articles you're complaining about are from major news sources, and so if you're saying they're fake news, why not sanction them? Why go after an independent, small guy like me? And the only thing I can think of is because 2 nights ago, I've been following the COVID-19 outbreak for months, and I've been on the Chinese biotech development beat for the last 2-3 years following that. The only thing I can think of is I'm getting national exposure because I'm the only sort of mainstream analyst who's seriously looking into the fact that coronavirus may have been from a Chinese lab, and I've been getting a lot of attacks from China on my website, on my Twitter page with these bots, and I'm just wondering if somebody is trying to make my life miserable. I don't know. Maybe I'm being, paranoid, but I've been using the Weichert Report's Facebook page for 5 years, never had a problem until now.
It's fascinating to me about this virus and when it appeared, where did it come from, and how did it originate, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I've been following as you know, I'm a national security background, and so I've been following sort of the counterintelligence aspect of this. Senator Tom Cotton is the most prominent person that I know in the U.S. who continues, by the way, saying that he thinks this is from a lab. And so me being me, I'm saying, well, I know Tom Cotton a little bit. I like him. Let me see if I can figure out if there's something to this. And so far what I've found, and my wife is a geneticist, and she worked at NIH, the National Institute of Health, previously. And so I just started investigating, and we've uncovered, multiple counterintelligence investigations ongoing into Chinese researchers, supposed researchers, coming into the United States, receiving NIH, that's taxpayer-funded grants, to go do supposed research at these NIH-related facilities, and they end up stealing data sets that are proprietary, so it's IP theft. And in 2015, there were reports that Chinese scientists were stealing a lot of data sets related to COVID-19, or excuse me, not COVID, but coronaviruses in general, and HIV research and cancer research. And what we know about COVID-19 is that it's a chimera, which means it's a mixture of things. It's coronavirus mostly, with splices of cancer and HIV genes in there. Now, my medical friends tell me that's not indicative necessarily of a human interaction there, that it wasn't necessarily a lab-produced thing, but they also also can't disprove it. And so with all these counterintelligence breaches, and of course the Charles Lieber case, a Harvard biologist who was actually secretly part of China's Thousand Talents program, receiving $50,000 a month to send virology, coronavirus research, and to help build a virology lab in Wuhan. I'm looking at this going, there might be something to the notion that this came from a lab in Wuhan.
Now, if they created this, what would be the purpose in creating the virus?
Well, see, so I have to, it's easy to say this was an attack. I actually think we know China has absolutely no safety standards whatsoever in anything. And so I actually think they were probably in this race to beat the Americans in some new biotech field. And I think that, as you know, SARS is a huge problem over there. Right. I think it was just similar to SARS, though not exactly. I think what was going on is they were just conducting tests and the thing got out. And they're trying to cover up the fact that they were doing the test because they stole the initial research from NIH labs here in the U.S. And so I think this was probably an accident. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt if I can prove that this is in fact stolen from U.S. IP. But the other option is if it came from a lab, it was some kind of attack. But I don't feel comfortable going there yet because it hurt the Chinese even more so far than it's hurt us. So I'm willing to think that if it came from a lab, that this is in fact probably was an accident.
Yeah, I mean, the timing was particularly impropitious, too, with Chinese New Year, and they knew that amount of travel would be happening. Yeah. But I tend to agree with you. I don't think they would deliberately attack their own people to spread the virus. That makes absolutely no sense.
Right. I mean, unless they're going after the old people. I don't really, it's a possibility, but if I do think it was an accident, and I think they're embarrassed by it, and I think if I were Trump, given how now China's trying to spin this where it's our fault, if I were Trump, and he seemed to allude to that yesterday in the Rose Garden speech, I would more explicitly start demanding that they prove this did not come from the Wuhan Virology Institute, which is very near, by the way, the marketplace they claim this disease emanated from. We'll see. I'm investigating. I'm not going to stop until I find something one way or the other. But this is not a clear-cut case. I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, it's definitely from bats. Well, even if it's from bats, that doesn't mean that we know for a fact they were experimenting with bats in that lab in China. So, it might have come from a bat from the lab.
Now, the spread of this, and obviously if we develop a vaccine for it, it kind of neutralizes it as any potential weapon at that point. So obviously we've kind of ramped up our efforts to come up with something to combat it. But the thing that I find frightening about this whole thing is that as this has ripple effects on China's economy, dictatorships have a tendency to the best cure for almost losing power to an economic crisis is a war. So your thoughts on that?
Something that I've been tracking also is I'm a China analyst overall. And so one of the things that I've been tracking is last week, the Chinese military, the People's Liberation Army, did a massive purchase of 1.4 million body armor units for their troops. And this was right after Xi Jinping made a rather bizarre speech in which he was basically threatening the U.S., saying that, we're not going to let you embarrass us, and we should be praised for our response to COVID-19, and we've stopped it, blah, blah, blah. That was done, and then a couple days later, they did this massive purchase of body armor. There have been several instances over the last few weeks of Chinese Air Force jets actively targeting Taiwanese Air Force jets in Taiwanese airspace. We know that Xi Jinping has made for years the most explicit arguments of any Chinese leader since Mao that he's going to take back Taiwan one way or the other. And so if I were Taiwan, I would be very concerned that as instability increases and as China becomes more of a pariah, they might start doing some pretty aggressive things against Taiwan.
I mean, and obviously that's the big fear, because then we've got a global World War III basically on our hands at that point.
Yeah, we do. I spoke when I was involved more in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago. I talked to a retired Taiwanese official, and I asked him, I said, what happens, though, if with China's anti-access area denial strategies where they can basically prevent our forces from coming in without having significant losses to us at the bat? I said, what happens to Taiwan if we can't interdict, or, God forbid, we won't interdict to stop a Chinese invasion? And he looked at me. He said, we can hold out right now on the island without help for probably 2 weeks if we're lucky. He said, we don't talk about the other option, though, which is if America can't or won't come to our aid. And the implication was that they would be basically hosed in the long term because they cannot withstand a siege from the mainland without our help.
Right.
So.
And you wonder what the commitment is to Taiwan.
Especially as we're getting into an election season. There's this thing with Iran heating up again. We've got the economy we have to worry about, and so it's a good question, and I hope that my friends in Taiwan take seriously what happens if we don't intervene. It's certainly going to be a bloody affair if we do, and obviously I'm with Taiwan. I want them to be free, and China is just a mess right now, and they're completely unpredictable. But these are things that I've been writing about and lecturing about. The DoD brings me around to talk about this and kind of the technology aspect of China's rise, and I've in the last 48 hours suddenly become under attack on my social media, which is fine, but I'm noticing that it seems like they're trying to silence me with specifically what I'm talking about regarding China, their instability in COVID-19. And so I think that's something every journalist and person with a public platform who's involved in national security and politics should start focusing on, to try to bring a light to the fact that there's something bad going on in China right now that could affect us all, and already has.
So, Brandon, where can folks catch up with the Weichert Report, or where can they read your writing? And
so you can go to my website, which is theweichertreport.com. It's WEICHERT report.com. You can read me at American Greatness, AM Greatness. I'm occasionally at spectator.org, which is the American Spectator. Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Public Affairs, Real Clear World, Real Clear Defense. And I've got a book coming out called Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower. And it's all about how America remains the dominant power in space and how we pivot and become an economic superpower in space. Space mining, and we're in a second space race with China, so how we win that. It's coming out in the fall, so hopefully coronavirus won't stop the book tour that we're planning. That's where you can find me mostly. I'm on the radio a lot, Salem Radio. I'm on a bunch of, and I'm on this now with you. So I'm on the radio a lot as well. But you can go to my website, WeichertReport.com, for more.
Well, Brandon Weichert, we'd like to check back in with you from time to time to kind of get an update on what's happening in China. I want to thank you for being a guest on the John Laughlin Show.
Thank you for having me.
The John Laughlin Show hotline, sponsored by Propane Plus.